You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this. What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 26. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I am joined by the pride of PlayStation.
Nope, we're back.
What?
We're back to Switch again. PlayStation was just 1 week.
Pride of Nintendo Switch, apparently. Sean Babiak. Sean, if you ever interrupt that intro ever again, you're off the show.
I've interrupted multiple times.
That's true. Thank you to everyone watching live and joining us in the chat and participating. Just as a reminder, you can join us each and every Wednesday on YouTube. Just search Podcast PXN and you will find us there. Let's go ahead and start the show with the PXN News of the Week. And the first item we have, Half Life Alyx is officially coming March 23rd, 2020. So, 1 month away. 1 month away, Sean. Are you excited to play this? No, because neither of us have Oculus or Vive.
Is it on Oculus? I know it's on Vive.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. I know it's just not on PSVR.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure now that you say that, because it's...
Because Vive is obviously the highest quality one, and it's also the most expensive.
Yeah.
PSVR used to be the cheapest alternative to get you into VR, but Oculus Quest, if you can find it...
Well, actually, it's not the cheapest, though. Oculus Go is the cheapest.
Sorry, that's the one.
And that's not the same as Quest, because you can't use it on a PC.
No, I knew that, but it's like kind of the easiest to demonstrate. You don't have to connect everything under the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool people are getting this. I don't think Valve is going to see the sales that they want, because this is only on a hardware device that has a very... very big price point to get in that not even a lot of PC gamers are playing with.
Right.
So
I'd say the install base for this game will probably have a decent attach rate for people who own VR, but like you said, that's a very small portion of people compared to the overall number of PC users. So I think people would just rather than make Half-Life 3.
Like PSVR, now I don't have any numbers to back this up, but I'm pretty sure it's the best-selling unit, and it's only been reported that PlayStation has sold 5 million of those, which is obviously less than 5% of PlayStation 4 owners.
Right.
So you have to imagine then PC, probably combine Vive and Oculus, they maybe make up 5 million together too, so you're really already kind of handicapping your game that everybody wants to play.
Sure.
So I really honestly could see this coming to PSVR down the line, maybe when we figure out all the PS5 details with PSVR.
Yeah, very true.
But that's cool. It comes out in a month. Yeah. Horrible day, though. Horrible day. Yeah. Why would you release it that day?
Doom Eternal, Animal
Crossing. I mean, look, I know those two cannot be more polar opposites in the slightest.
No, that's not the opposites at all.
There's so much gore in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I love taking off little animals' heads with my chainsaw hands.
But both of those are going to do extremely well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you already have people that are probably going to buy both of those to kill everything and then relax. Kill everything and then relax. So I don't know how well people are going to buy it that day.
I agree. Moving on, Remedy has announced that they have started pre-production for a third unannounced project. So we already know that two of their projects, one of which is Control's DLCs that they're working on. They have 2 expansions that they've officially announced, one of which is an Alan Wake type expansion.
Yeah, when are those coming to Xbox?
Who the hell knows? Because fuck that stupid exclusivity shit.
That was so quick this time.
Yeah, because it's freaking annoying. I hate exclusivity crap like that. They just get me going with that crap. And their other project is Crossfire X, that single-player campaign that they announced for that when Crossfire X was announced that it's coming to Xbox. So that's their 2 projects. So their third project, I feel like it's kind of like a 50-50 for me, a toss-up, whether it's going to be a sequel to Control or if it's going to be something completely new. The thing that I keep coming back to is Control didn't sell that well. So are they going to make a sequel to a game that didn't sell that well, even though it got great critical acclaim? it didn't get the commercial success that it needed. I don't know if that's going to be figured out for the second game if they make a second game, because it's not like they're changing publishers. They're just an independent developer, and they're just going to get whatever small publisher they can get to publish their game. So, man, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, Control was my game of the year, as far as for PXN and everything. So I fully believe and want to believe and will continue to believe that it's going to be a follow-up to Control. I don't know how you go about it, because I don't think you can ditch the building given what the building offered. But it'd be curious to see what they would do with that. Now, Remedy generally doesn't do sequels except for a certain series where they actually did Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2.
True.
But the issue is that you were talking about sales and all that stuff. Max Payne 1 actually sold very well on the PlayStation 2.
True.
It had this whole Matrix thing behind it at that point. This is when the Matrix came out, when the game kind of came out. I think it was like a year or two after, but it had this whole bullet time slow-mo thing going for it, so that's part of why it did. And it was also a really well-written game. So I'm very hopeful that this is Control 2, but I can also see your point where it's not going to be, because they do like to go into their different, I guess, mentalities of everything, like trying to tell stories that you don't really think of or stuff like that. I have a prediction for later on that I'll kind of go back to with this, but I really am hopeful, just given the critical acclaim, that they're going to kind of look past that and try to see if, you know what, I'm just going to go with it right now. We'll talk about it later, but I honestly predict that PlayStation or Sony in general is not done buying after Insomniac, and I think they will make an offer to Remedy that'll be hard to refute. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think it's going to happen E3 or by the time the console's announced or whatever, but I think this will happen at some point where, because I'm assuming Microsoft's made an offer at one point with the Alan Wake success. I would assume. I could be wrong on that, because that was not during Phil Spencer's heyday, or now his heyday, but I could really see Sony seeing what Control had to offer. It's a third-person action game. That's kind of Sony's bread and butter. Them kind of letting them, hey, give us a Control 2. That type of thing.
So I think both of us are on the same page. We definitely want a sequel to Control. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But the thing is what I'm thinking about is to kind of back up your point about Sony acquiring them. If this was back when Remedy announced that they were no longer partnering with Microsoft on exclusive third-party game or second-party games, essentially, they kind of said, Sam Lake kind of said that they wanted to be an independent studio. They wanted to do their own thing. They didn't want to be owned by anyone, and that's why they did that. But now, after the commercial failure of
two games
Control,
in a row,
exactly,
and Quantum Break, both great games.
Yes,
but yeah, I get you.
They didn't sell what they would probably need to keep that studio going. Like, they're probably gonna need some kind of funding. So I definitely think they're in a point now that they're going to have to do something. And I don't think that they necessarily want to, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions like that.
And I don't think it would be as bad as, I guess you could say, almost back in the day, even though I know Sony, we just talked about last week, shut down that Manchester VR, which
it's great developer.
Gave us so many great games.
The best developer.
But I think it would be something that would not actually hurt them. Both Microsoft and Sony have been very good as far as relations with their studios, especially their big budget studios. They give them, like, look, 343, I mean, to have the time that they've had for Halo shows something from Microsoft, is that, okay, Halo 5 didn't do what we wanted it to do as far as expanding the Halo universe. It really solidified more multiplayer, but single player was kind of a clunker.
No, it wasn't kind of a clunker.
I'm being nice to you.
It was awful.
I'm being nice to you.
The campaign was awful.
But same thing with, like, Naughty Dog taking this long for Last of Us 2 or even Uncharted 4. They're given the time to take these projects that they love and can show their creative juices with by the heads of the companies, as far as Shuhei and Phil Spencer. So I could really see them almost, yes, it'd be scary, but it'd be very beneficial for them to be on that type of cycle where it's like, hey, do your thing. We know it's going to be good. You have all of our marketing behind you. We'll take care of that part when it comes to it.
I agree. Moving on, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has topped the January sales charts for video games. So this is kind of, I mean, it's not surprising because January was kind of light in new games. We didn't really have a whole lot.
This was really the big guy. That was it.
Yeah.
But still, to be a even Dragon Ball is, I don't know if you knew this. Dragon Ball Z is actually, or Dragon Ball is Japan's #1 export.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
It's there. They actually have an entire government-funded agency for Dragon Ball.
Jesus.
Because of how popular it is around the world.
That's insane.
But it's just surprising, obviously, that a action RPG that's anime was the #1 in America.
Yeah.
Because that is a little insane that type of game is the #1. Now, get it. Technically, sales are skewed in that month. But that is still pretty cool. Now, neither one of us have played it still. Yeah. And I know you don't have any interest to play it. I eventually will. It's just, there's some things around it that kind of turned me off, and there's a lot of other games that are coming out that I'd rather put my time into.
Yeah.
I might just wait for a sale to pick it up.
And it came off of one of the worst January months in video games in a long time. Like, compared to last year, they showed sales numbers. It was down like 48% or maybe more than that from last year's January sales, which obviously last January we had like Resident Evil 2 remake and...
I thought that was February.
Was it February? I thought it was January.
I mean, I know the big game that came out last year was something that people were waiting 11 years for, which is Kingdom Hearts 3.
Was that January?
That came out in January of last year. So obviously, like, that was going to be a huge seller for everything. Yeah, January 25th of last year.
Damn. It was Resident Evil 2 remake in January.
It
January
did, okay.
25th. And
So both the same day.
Oh, the biggest one, Ace Combat 7. I'm kidding.
You ever played an Ace Combat game?
No.
They're not that bad.
So Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil 2 were the big ones, and then Walking Dead Final Season Episode 3, that's probably not going to do a whole lot, but those two in general, those two together are freaking insane numbers, I'm sure, so that's not a surprise that it's down quite a bit from last year, just based on that. Moving on, so there's this little game that we may have made fun of on this podcast in the
There's
past.
no may.
Yeah, many times over the last, how many episodes? 25 episodes we've had previously. And this game has been announced for a long time, and we might need to apologize for all the hate we've been giving it because it's actually doing very well critically, and that is Dreams on PS4.
90 right now on Metacritic.
Yeah, that's really good. Which, last I saw, it was like 10 reviewers. Now it's up to 39. Mm-hmm. That's really solid. That's a really solid foundation for Dreams. And now the biggest thing, the biggest obstacle Dreams is going to compete with is keeping sustainability.
Oh, you think that? See, I think it's getting you and I to convert to want to play Dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking about Remedy's issue when it comes to commercial sales or commercial success, and that's where I think their issue now lies is how do you convince me that, I don't want to say I've been shitting on it, but I have been not excited, not hyped. Yeah. I don't want to create stuff, I just want to play. Okay, that looks like that's pretty much been fixed. From the get-go, that's been fixed from all the reviews I've read.
Yeah.
But that still has not changed my opinion to want to pick it out and play it for $60 at this point.
And I agree completely. The creation tools with Dream are absolutely stunning and crazy what you can do. Like, I was seeing somebody built a Fallout 4 game engine in Dreams, and it looked like a certain play area for Fallout 4. But the thing is like, that little snippet that they showed ran horribly. Like, there was lots of frame rate issues. Like, it was probably about 15 frames per second. And I think that's the problem. Like, it's something to behold, and it's super awesome, like all the artistic things that people are doing with it. But is it going to actually be viable for people to make these fully fledged games in their game? Because that was their goal from the get-go, was for them to get this in the hands of people to basically make games on their platform so that people would play games through Dreams instead of playing games that are made with Unreal or one of the other game engines out there. So I think the problem, as you said, is going to get people to play Dreams and play it and keep their interest. Like, you can't just have them play it one time and say, hey, this is interesting. That you have to let them play it and find things to keep getting them to come back for it. Like,
it all depends on how much Sony in my opinion, invests into the streamer community. If you have people streaming your game, I mean, Fortnite's the best example that you can ever give, and I guess Minecraft too, to a point. But the more people streaming your game, the more popular it is.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to Dreams having a ever-changing experience, because you have so many different genres in there. Like, I mean, you can only just imagine what people are going to see and say, hey, that looks kind of cool, I want to play that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad, though, that it reviewed very well. That is actually pretty good, in my mind, for Media Molecule. That, we talked about this before, but little on thin ice when it came to what was going to come of them, because let's not skip around. This was basically announced on the launch presentation of the PS4.
Yes.
So back in, what was that, February 2013?
Yes.
So this was 7-ish years in the making, more or less.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that it's people are liking this and all that stuff, but we just have to see what's going to become of it, because, again, this 7 years ago, okay, now we're going into the end of this 7th year, the end of the console.
Yeah.
What translates to PS5?
Yeah. And banking off of your streamer thing, like, that's something you can look at something like Sea of Thieves for, because Sea of Thieves had a huge surge in popularity after their anniversary update, because a whole bunch of streamers went back and played that game. That game was the top played game on its anniversary day when all the updates dropped on Twitch, and people were super excited to go back and check it out because of all the things they added. And that's something similar for Dreams, because you're adding tools for the developers to use that are using Dreams to make games. And as people make more games for it, you've got to curate that content and show that content to people to make them interested and want them to play it, essentially. So, moving on, we've got Modern Warfare's Battle Royale mode has officially been leaked. It is called Warzone. This is probably the worst kept secret in all of history. And kind of a dichotomy, I guess you could call it, as opposed to Apex Legends reveal that they had a few weeks ago for their new character, where they basically trolled people and had a fake character. Modern Warfare is just like, oh no, hold our coffee, we're just going to put all of our game files in the game and just let people find it. I mean, there's people literally in multiplayer matches on one of the maps and zooming the camera out, and that's the Battle Royale map, because
that sounds about right.
It's in that area. So it's kind of funny how complete opposite they are. And they also had these huge downloads for Call of Duty Modern Warfare that people were like, what is in these huge downloads? Like, they were gigantic downloads, and now it's pretty clear what it was.
Of course, data miners are going to find all that crap.
Exactly, and you can't expect them to not look for that. But anyways, apparently this Warzone game mode will have vehicles in it, so ATVs, SUVs, helicopters, etc. So similar to their large-scale multiplayer experience, Ground War, it has all of that stuff, which is super interesting. There were rumors that it would have up to 200 players, which is just insane if that's the case.
That worked out so well for MAG, right?
True. However, I think it would be interesting if the map's big enough and if you find a way to get players distributed across the map evenly. The problem with having too many players in a match like that is if everyone drops in one area, you will literally have chaos, and it'll probably
Skulltown.
Yes,
Skulltown,
and it'll break the game probably. So, I mean,
I remember at Apex. Now, granted, you can't play that anymore. We were just talking about last week. Skulltown, everything slowed down so much because 9 teams would jump there every time.
Mm-hmm. And Fortnite, Tilted Towers was very much that before they destroyed it. They destroyed it in the last map update, but. That's kind of interesting to me to see how they will kind of introduce that. Also, the new feature that they're talking about where there's like a gulag that eliminated players battle each other 1v1, and the victor of that match gets to respawn. That's kind of cool, a cool concept.
That's an interesting, yeah.
It's just kind of a cool twist on it because, like, just because you're out doesn't mean you're out. Like, essentially, it's a loser's bracket for the Battle Royale mode.
I don't know if you watch Top Chef, but it reminds me of that, where, like, I think when it gets to the 4, everyone that's been eliminated keeps going through like a thing at the end. Like I think it's online only, but
yeah. So this will be kind of very interesting to keep our eye on. I don't know when it's supposed to drop, but right now in the Modern Warfare menu, because I just played it the other day, it has a spot for it where it says classified. So I would imagine in the next week or two we will have more firm details or it being released.
My guess is, and now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably somewhere around the date of Doom, because I think Doom's going to take a lot of FPS players away.
You think that long? That'd be a month, over a month.
I mean, it could be within like a week or so of that, but like if you were kind of split between the two, you'd be like, well, and let's be real, okay, are you on...
Yeah, I'm
Japanese anime porn.
This is for the next news story. It's Platinum Games website, but I wasn't expecting it to be Japanese. Or this isn't their website, but it's linking to their news story talking about it.
But I mean, Call of Duty is the only one that can compete with Fortnite and Apex at this point, with Blackout. So I can only see this being just as good with that.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Japanese porn sites, apparently, the next news story, it's Platinum Games. I had to do Google Translate because it took me to a Japanese website and I couldn't freaking read any of it. Anyways, Platinum Games, which you are very fond of nowadays, that you love hearing about games that they're working on not named Bayonetta 3.
Why would you do
that? Platinum Games is making a major game announcement next week in Famitsu. So there's not a whole lot of information about that. It just kind of says they will have a major announcement soon. So that doesn't mean... I don't think this necessarily means that they won't announce something about something that they've already announced. It says... Isn't it a completely new work? It's almost time for... I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a new game or if it's just going to be them saying, hey, Bayonetta 3, here's a big cover story for it for Famitsu. They don't really talk about that, so maybe that's what you're getting.
I don't think that's what I'm getting.
You don't think so?
I think whatever... At this point in time, whatever Bayonetta 3 was going to be is not what it's going to be anymore. That's why we haven't heard anything in over 3 years now with this game. Or I guess it's been 2 years. Yeah, because it was announced during the Switch year of 2017. But
Game Awards, right?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything since. But again, Platinum Games, I don't know what's going on. I think they're the telltale of the industries at this point. They're just dipping their feet into way too many projects at once. And here's another one. Unless this is their AAA kind of game that they're making. With Nintendo. Wasn't it Nintendo? Or no, it was somebody else that they were partnering with. I think it was Bandai Namco or something like that.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, it could be that, but, I mean, I don't get Platinum Games at this point. Like, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop, make the game, make it good, then move on to the next project.
True.
So, I don't know. I'm tired of them saying, well, we're going to announce something else. Well, we're going to announce something else after that. But then we're going to announce something else after that. So what are you making? Well, nothing at this point. We're just announcing.
We're just going to keep announcing
stuff
that's all and not
it
releasing it. Yeah. So that's the end of our PXN News of the Week. We'll move on to the games we are playing. So games we are playing, I have an interesting twist this week. So one of my friends brought over his Oculus Quest VR headset, which we were just talking about at the top of the show. So the Oculus Quest is super interesting because it's a wireless headset that you can use all by itself. It doesn't have to be connected to a PC at all to experience it. So it's a completely wireless headset that you can put the games on and use wirelessly. You can also use it to connect to your PC for Oculus enabled games, which is also a very good idea. And the thing is I was very skeptical about Oculus Quest when it was announced because Oculus Quest seemed like a device that was a lesser powered Oculus Rift. And I was like, why would anyone want that? Well, after playing it, I can 1000% see why people would want it. Because having no wires and no tethering to anything is a super awesome idea. Because you are encompassing yourself in the game. You're putting on the headset. You don't worry about any cords or dangles or attachments or anything other than just
the dongles.
Yeah, exactly. Anything other than the experience. And honestly, I was impressed with what I played. It wasn't it wasn't like visually like the most stunning things I've ever seen. The games that he showed me were for the most part pretty basic games other than Beat Saber. I played Beat Saber on there as well, which I had already played on your PSVR before. But honestly, I was very impressed with the technology, and I really think it's a cool idea. And now it makes sense why Oculus Quest is sold out at every freaking major retailer.
Can't even pre-order it online.
You can't get it anywhere right now. So that was super cool. There was a super cool football game that he showed me, which it was, again, very basic game. It was like these little like pin people or whatever, like flat people, and then like almost like a chess piece that you're moving. And it was a football game. And you're the quarterback, and you could draw on the whiteboard. You could draw like different plays, move the players around however you want them, draw up whatever plays you want, and then you go into the game and you could throw the football to whatever players you want. It was a freaking really cool idea. Like the whiteboard was even like hilarious because like when you pick up the pen to start writing on the board, like you feel like you are touching the board. And you're like, oh, am I pushing too much? And you're like, no, I can push more. And then it's just super, super cool.
I remember what it was called?
I don't remember what it's called, no. It's on Quest, and it worked on Quest by itself. I don't remember what it was called, though.
Was it 2MD VR
no,
football?
That's not it. No, because that's fully character model. Wait a minute. That might be it, because that looked familiar. Yes, that's it.
Okay, so that's what it is, 2MD.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So super cool idea, and I thought that was super interesting, and it has little like mini games on it as well that you can throw through the hoops and stuff. And one of my friends, he put all three receivers in the backfield. He had two on each side and then one behind the quarterback. He had them going every which way, and it was just super hilarious. Like we were dying laughing watching, because actually that was the other cool thing. There's no wires when you connect to the TV too with Chromecast. You can.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you can connect to Chromecast. So we were watching on the TV as the person's playing. So that was super cool too, and it worked very well as well. The only small complaint I have is the audio does not go over Chromecast. It's only video, which is kind of annoying. But
yeah, because I'm like thinking because we actually have a very good multiplayer game for PSVR called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, and it's a puzzle game where you as the VR person have a bomb that you have to defuse, but everybody that's not in VR actually controls the screen, and they have to figure out how to like walk me through defusing a bomb. Yeah, and it's like very stressful and all this stuff, but it's super hilarious because every time you're arguing with somebody with what they see, but obviously they're the ones that are seeing it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even understand why the audio can't even be sent over Chromecast, because I would feel like the video would be more demanding than the audio. I feel like that would be an easy thing to stream, but I don't know. I'm not involved with Chromecast.
So you think you might get it if you ever could find one in the wild?
I don't know. It definitely piqued my interest a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And the idea that you can plug it into your PC and use it that way as well to play fully fledged VR games is super awesome as well. And the other game we played, it was almost like a cheap knockoff of Counter-Strike. But it was kind of interesting because you kind of bought, as you went through the match, you would buy your weapons like Counter-Strike, but then you move your character like fully with the joystick, and you just turn your head to orient what direction you're moving. So like walking up and down stairs was super trippy. Like I felt like I was about to fall down when I was looking down the stairs. It was obviously like the VR effect where you feel like you're falling but you're not.
Did he have Vader Immortal? That's the one game I
He
wanted to
did,
check.
but I haven't. We didn't get to play that.
Yeah.
We ran out of.
That's one that I want to check out.
Yeah, we didn't get to check out Vader Immortal, but he did have it. So that was cool. And then obviously we played Beat Saber as well, which pretty much the same experience as PlayStation VR. I failed the first song I did.
On easy, probably.
On easy. I was actually impressed because I started off doing really good. Oh, that's Elliot. What's up, Elliot? What about throwing your hand instead of the ball? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was throwing... It was a weird... In the football game, there was a really weird glitch where sometimes we would throw, and it would throw the hand instead of the ball. So we were dying laughing because we go back to throw, and we're like, what is that? It's like your hand is flying through the air while the football's on the ground. We're like, the heck? But anyways, yeah, Beat Saber, I started doing very well in it, and then I quickly, derailed.
Did you guys get a chance to play the new update with the, it's like a 180 mode where you play in different directions?
Oh, God, no.
It's insane to play like that.
I can't even do the one mode.
I guess that's true.
I couldn't even do that on easy. So,
I wanted to have my friends, I had people over the other weekend, and I wanted to try that, but no one else wanted to play because it's just... You're going around in so many different directions. But I love that whole no wires thing because constantly on the PSVR, I feel it just right on my shoulder. Yeah. Or when you're playing PSVR, I can get tangled in them and all that stuff. So I completely see the love and the need for going wireless for it. So as far as the games that I'm playing, so I got two of them, both Switch games, even though they're not just exclusively on the Switch. First of which is Dead Cells. We talked about the DLC coming out last week. Yep. So I bought that. It's only $5, so not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And for the first time since I owned Dead Cells, I actually beat it. I was just jumping for joy the fact that I could finally beat it. I got very lucky, and due to some RNG, got a frying pan that was colorless, and that went up with my other stats that I already had, and the new areas were amazing and beautiful, and actually not as difficult as I thought they would be.
Really?
They're a little bit less difficult than the last one in the Rise of the Giants DLC, but their characters are a lot cooler. They have some repeats, but they have more animals in them, or bugs, I guess you could say. And I didn't realize this, but now to get anything else, I have to play the game in hard mode. I was always playing it in normal mode.
Oh, jeez.
So now, even in the first area in the hard mode, now there's so many enemies that are invisible that I can barely see. So I have to just get lucky with stuff. So it is still insane and impossible. I can get maybe to the third area without dying. You don't get potions anymore. You don't get to refill your health anymore between stages. You only get one potion, maybe. So you have to pretty much be smarter with it. And I was always way too run and gun with all that stuff. But the DLC was actually really cool. I like it. I like the new bosses that they have too, and just the new areas in general. So highly recommend if you have that game.
Cool.
The other one that I had that I purchased is Darksiders Genesis. Obviously, it's the Darksiders game, so I was going to buy it no matter what. This came out on Stadia, the super successful Google platform.
Yeah, it has 100,000 people
maybe
using it. I think that was what the last report was.
Was it?
Only had 100,000 subscribers or something.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would at this point, but that's just me. But now it's on all the other consoles as well. So I purchased on the Switch. I think you said you purchased on the Xbox.
Yep.
So I am really enjoying it so far. I love Strife. That's actually who I've mainly been. You can choose between Strife and War, playing as. I've really liked how, if you really think about it, every single game, and there's been 4 now, they've changed up the formula completely. So the first one was a Zelda-like. The second one was an MMO kind of RPG, but not MMO.
Yep.
Third one was a Dark Souls clone, and this one is a top-down shooter. More or less Diablo type thing. So it's really cool how they keep experimenting with these genres and stuff. And still, after all this time, they still have all the same voice acting cast.
Yeah.
The guy that played Volgrim in the very first game is still the guy that's playing Volgrim now.
Oh.
That's really cool in a game series that spawned about, I think it's been about 13 years now.
Yeah, and it's been handed off 3 different developers.
Exactly, yeah. So it's really cool that the voice actors keep coming back to this. I like to compare it to a lesser Diablo. You and I both love Diablo 3, thought it was awesome. Switch is a perfect home for it.
Yep.
This time you only get to play as Strife and War, so you only have 2 characters that you can choose from instead of 6. But they actually work very well, especially with Strife kind of being smarmy, kind of snarky as well, and then War being so like, we must do our duty, brother, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So they play really well off each other in the story itself. There are some glitches. I've been caught in a wall a few times. Occasionally, I think it's a little too dark. I don't think the lighting is as good as it could be.
I played for just like 5 or 10 minutes, and I had some some choppiness as far frame rate goes.
If there's a lot of little things going on, it can get like that. Yeah. Now, I haven't experienced it too much, except for just one section, I think like in the 5th level. But actually, my friend Chris came over yesterday, in fact, and we got to experience the co-op.
Nice.
So co-op plays pretty well. My main issue is that they do a vertical split screen, but it's not a vertical split screen that I think is very helpful, because you and I were talking about this and we can't even remember the game.
Yeah.
But there's some games that when they go vertical on that split screen, when you and your character come together, they end up becoming full screen again and making it a lot easier to see and tell where your character is, all that stuff. This game, unfortunately, stays split screen the entire game. So even if myself and Chris were right next to each other, it was still in split screen. So half the time I'd be caught watching his screen or vice versa. So that was a little annoying with that stuff. It wasn't like taking us out of the experience or anything like that. It just wasn't ideal to the way like we were kind of used to playing, especially when it comes to like that not going back at all. The fact that you can ride your horse a lot more often than you ever could in the game, that was actually pretty cool. Even though in, I think it was 3, they killed your horse like within the first like minute of the game. But I'm really loving it so far. I'm about, in my campaign, I'm probably a little less than 10 hours in. So a lot of replayability. The customization is really cool too. But highly recommend it if you're not just a fan of the Darksiders series, but also want to give like a top-down game, or something that's like gonna scratch that Diablo itch for you.
A Way Out.
That's not what I was thinking of.
I think they didn't do it like that. They did it a different way. They did it side by side. I can't. That's really bugging me that I can't remember what game that was. 'Cause it was super cool how it like split the screen like diagonally or whatever, depending on where you move your character. Man, that just really bugs me that I can't remember that. Anyways, oh well.
I'll search for it while I'm thinking of it.
All right. Moving on to the topic of the show. This week we wanted to go over our thoughts for Sony's PlayStation 5. So PlayStation 5's reveal event is apparently happening very soon, according to Sony. They're suggesting that. So a lot of people were saying February initially, that they were going to have the reveal event in February, but we are getting very close to the end of February. There's only one more full week of February left. So I'm kind of thinking they're going to announce it very early March and maybe have it take place the second week of March or something like that. This event is going to be interesting because we are waiting to see what they're going to reveal. Are they going to reveal the price? Are they going to reveal any game? They're going to reveal games, but how many games are they going to reveal? Are they going to hold anything for before E3? Like, what are they planning to do with this event? Are they announcing NAC 3? Because
that's what you have to launch with.
Yeah, no one wants NAC 3. Don't do that, Sony. But also on the back of that, there's also reports saying that the manufacturing cost for PlayStation 5 has been reportedly set to $450 per unit, which is very interesting. That number means that basically they could sell the console at $450 and basically lose a little bit of money, because obviously that goes into console development. You have R&D, manufacturing costs, and all the hidden costs that you don't really see with the actual physical materials. So they would lose a little bit if they sold it at $450. I think right now I'm still thinking that it's going to be $500. But if they wanted to surprise people they could launch this thing at $450 and undercut Microsoft again on price. And if they do that, I think they're going to, again, be in a position where they will control the narrative with price point on next generation. You found
Hunter the Reckoning.
Hunter the Reckoning.
I could not think of it for the longest time, but yes, it's Hunter the Reckoning.
There you go.
I just had to get it in my mind. Sorry, that was bugging the hell out of me. I can participate now.
Okay. So I think this is very interesting price-wise, because if they undercut Microsoft again, they will undoubtedly control the narrative as far as price goes. Even if the Xbox Series X is more powerful, like it's reportedly a little bit more powerful, I think it won't matter because price point is king in this industry. If someone sees a $450 PlayStation 5 and a $500 Xbox Series X, I don't know that necessarily parents will say, oh, let me get this, unless the kids are telling them to get that. But again, Sony has already dominated this generation, so they're just going to, you would think they're just going to carry that momentum into next generation, especially if they're the cheaper console. However,
I was going to say, remember,
yes,
it's ever since basically PS2, it's been a switching thing going on right now.
And that's not entirely true that it would be the least expensive if this Xbox Series S ends up to come to fruition, because that would undoubtedly be less money than that. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this compares, and I don't know what are your thoughts on this reveal event and what they have.
One, I don't think it'll happen in March personally. I honestly think that you're not looking for a reveal event until, this is just a thought, May.
No,
I think it's going to be right before E3.
You think they're going to wait that long?
I don't know if I have. So we already know Sony's not coming to E3.
Yeah.
And there's the rumor that they might do some sort of video event beforehand.
Which they did last year.
They did last year, which wasn't very good, if you remember right.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a few games in there, but that was really about it. It didn't really do anything for anyone.
But they didn't have as much.
True. So that's why I think, in order for them to stay relevant in the conversation for E3, because Xbox at this point is going to own E3 conversation, because they might have an event beforehand. They haven't announced if they will or not. We're just assuming, given last generation.
Yeah.
But we're assuming no matter what, E3, they're going to walk out being the topic of conversation, because they're the ones that are actually showing up. Mm-hmm. So how does Sony at least continue to have that talk is right before E3. This is all just my thoughts. This is not, I have nothing to prove anything.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of how I'm feeling for them, is that they will do something at that time. Now, would I like it sooner? Yes, because I want to know what I'm going to get into. I myself am getting a PS5 at launch. I know you're getting an Xbox Series X at launch. Mm-hmm. So I want to know what I'm getting into when it comes to the PS5, so I know what I'm getting for my money's worth. And then I can wait for the Xbox, essentially Lockhart edition, to see if that's something that I want to jump in on or if not.
Yeah.
I think $450 is an odd price point to launch at. I stick behind as far as probably the $500. But I could also see them undercutting if that reported leak of 450 unit cost. I could see them going at 400 as well. Similar
at
to
400?
At 400.
No way.
Remember, every single console, except for Nintendo's, launches at a loss.
Not necessarily true though, because I was doing research after this came out. PlayStation 4's cost was only crap. I forgot the number already. $370. It was like $370 or $380 for the PlayStation 4's cost at launch.
So they made $20
and it shipped at $400. Yeah. But you have to think they didn't necessarily make $20 because those hidden costs, like we were just talking about, you have manufacturing, you have overhead, you have facilities, you have R&D, you have all this other stuff that factors in.
So there's been a rumor out for a while, nothing's ever been confirmed, but that Sony's been waiting for Microsoft to announce their price point.
Right.
And we are all assuming minimum for the Xbox Series X 500. That's minimum. And given what we might find out in the next few months about Series X, it could unfortunately jump up in price because it is supposed to be the premium console experience.
I don't think so, but yes, it could.
Yeah, but I'm also going off of your thought process of they're not trying to sell you the box, they're trying to sell you the service.
Right, yeah.
So the box is almost like, hey, this is what you get to amplify our service, more or less. So they might not be too much worried in that realm, so to speak. Whereas Sony, Sony doesn't have the service right now. They have an ecosystem that people are very much akin to. So, like, right now, we were talking about this last week, supposed 50 million Xbox One players. I don't know if I believe that or not. And then 100 plus million PS4 players. So there's 100 plus people that are used to the PS4's ecosystem compared to the Xbox One's. Hell, when I had to boot up Resident Evil 2, you had to show me where I had to go to for a lot of things, so I don't play my Xbox ever.
Right.
So it's how do you continue to get those people over or keep them, because that's what this generation is going to be about, is how do we keep the current player base.
True. However, people did go from Xbox 360, which was very different than PlayStation 4.
But they went there, in my opinion, this is where I think you're 100% right, is because of the price point. Price point is going to be king on this thing. So what better price point than offer something between a Lockhart and a Series X, which we think the PS5 is going to be, given leaked specs, more or less. So if you can give them to that at that $400 price point, the Lockhart's $350, and then the Xbox Series X is $500.
Maybe $350. It may be $400.
You might be right too. With everything, this entire next gen is all speculation.
Yeah.
But I could really see that kind of price point stacking up, and that's how PlayStation remains essentially king. In this sense.
I just think if they put it at $450, they're not taking a huge loss. They're taking a little loss, not anywhere close to the loss of selling it at $400. And if they put it at $450, I think the Lockhart will be $400 and Series X will be $500. So they'll still be in the middle of those two consoles, and they're getting in the more powerful console than Lockhart at just $50 more. Lockhart is reportedly 4 teraflops roughly of power. PlayStation 5 is reportedly 10 teraflops. So over double the power for just $50 more is what I'm thinking. And you put it at $450, yes, that's a kind of weird price point or whatever, but it doesn't really matter if it's $50 cheaper than the Xbox Series X. And the other thing we're not really thinking about as well, even if Lockhart is a thing, I think it's a real possibility that it won't even be out this year. I think that it's a possibility.
I like that thinking.
I think it's a possibility Lockhart comes out in 2021 and Series X is the focus for this year. So if that's the case, then...
To not confuse consumers.
Yes, and if that's the case, then Sony's by themselves at $450. They're the cheapest console, again. And Microsoft, I don't think that they could afford to take... I mean, Microsoft in general could afford to take the loss, but they're not going to take that big of a loss going to $450. Because if Series X's power is actually at 12 teraflops, there's no way that's $450.
My only concern with that, and I get it, the console war is all in our heads, it's not a real thing, because most of them actually, at this point, they all play nice together.
Yeah.
I mean, who would ever thought that cross-platform would be a thing?
True.
Or cross-play, sorry. But I think if Xbox doesn't release that, I like it. But if they don't, I think they solidified themselves to starting behind yet again. And I think, granted, Phil Spencer has been on record saying that they will never have the least powerful console ever again.
Right.
But I don't think he, as the head of Xbox, wants to ever be in second place again. Now, you can't really blame him for Xbox One's failures.
Yeah.
That was on
Don Matrix.
Yeah, because of everything that was said and happened before Phil Spencer basically took the reins and corrected a lot of things. But I don't think he's going to want to play second fiddle to Sony yet again. And that's what you're going to do, unfortunately, if you have that huge price gap. Even if it's $50, say that. Say it's $450 and $500.
Right.
That's still a pretty big jump for consumers to say, okay, well, $50 more, but $50 is basically a game that I could have gotten with my PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
But again, you could also say Xbox, well, if you already have your Game Pass, then you already have however many games you want on that. I mean, I'm assuming nothing's ever been said, but it's safe to assume, because it's Xbox, that day one of playing your Xbox Series X, Game Pass is going to work, and so is Halo Infinite. It's going to be on there right there. You don't have to pre-order any games with it, because it's going to be right there for you.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just a give and take, and you're supposed to explain that to parents that are going to buy that, and meanwhile, they're probably going to be thinking, okay, little Johnny wants this $500 console, so after tax, you're looking at like $525, plus they want the new Halo game. Okay, there's about $600 now that we're looking at. not knowing all these other things, and Best Buy or whoever is going to be looking more forward to selling you that game rather than selling you Game Pass.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. Let's just say that.
And this generation started with PS4 at $400 and Xbox One at $500, but that $500 price point came from Kinect, because Kinect was reportedly an extra $100 and some add-on to that console. So they don't really have that this time. They just have a more expensive console because it's a more powerful console, essentially. But how much is that power going to actually matter to the consumer is the question. And like you said, the one thing that you said, Microsoft playing second fiddle to Sony, I think that's hard to, in this day and age that we are right now, with how Microsoft views gaming, I don't think we can necessarily measure that the same way anymore because of it being available on PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, because they don't care about the consoles themselves. They care about the ecosystem. They care about the consoles, but they want to drive people to the ecosystem. They don't want to
I just wish they would I wish in a sense they would let us know what the financials are then from those, because that would give you the comparison.
The gaming division of Microsoft actually makes more now than it ever made during the 360 generation because of Game Pass and because of their subscriptions. Like when Microsoft does their earnings reports, their last earnings report, the gaming division was the highest it's ever been, and that's because of Game Pass. And that's the important thing to think about. We always talk about console wars and all of that, but in reality, console wars aren't really going to be a thing moving forward, I don't think, because not for consumers. Consumers are always going to freaking have console wars and bicker back and forth about which one's their favorite.
Oh, I mean, you and I were just giving each other crap yesterday for what'd you buy Darksiders on.
Yes.
It literally is the same game.
Yes. And that will continue. That's not ever going to stop. That will literally never stop. But I think as far as the back and forth between gaming companies like that, between Microsoft and Sony, I don't think that's going to necessarily be comparable anymore, because they have two very different strategies and they're two very different things.
So do you see it less going from it almost going away from a Sega versus Nintendo back in the 90s to now a Hulu versus Netflix, because that's what it's going to be about. It's going to be streaming wars.
Right.
It's who's going to get the exclusive rights to the Office equivalent or the Friends equivalent, and the two most streamed shows in the entire world.
Yeah.
When you have those, I mean, those are both. Friends already left Netflix. Office leaves at the end of this year.
Yep.
Those are the biggest things that Netflix always had going for it. So what's that going to look like in the future? Yep. So what partnership is Xbox going to bring to the table now, and what partnership is Sony going to bring?
Yeah.
And we can joke about indies, and like I get it. Dead Cells is an indie game. It's a very beloved indie game that came out, I think, it was either last year or 2 years ago. But it is still a game that people love to play. People love to watch stream and all that stuff. So indie games do have a part in the streaming war. So who's going to get the better indie games? Yeah. It's a Witness and Inside all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, those two launched exclusively on separate consoles, and then I think it was in a week. Just some random week, and I think in August they just did a switch where Inside got to PlayStation and Witness got to Xbox.
Yeah, and moving forward, the ecosystem's going to be important for both. I think Sony, we're seeing more now that they're pushing more to PC with all the news about Horizon Zero Dawn coming to PC and Naughty Dog hiring for PC positions. Like that. That's the thing. Like, this industry is moving more towards an ecosystem-driven industry rather than a plastic box-driven industry. You know, people aren't going to necessarily be looking for that plastic box anymore. They're going to be looking for Xbox logo or PlayStation logo or whatever, whether you're on PC, mobile, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. I think that's
Switch.
Well, Nintendo just does their own thing. So even
Nintendo
with all this,
is their own thing.
With all this going on, there is the caveat that Nintendo is just going to do whatever Nintendo wants to do. That's the thing. So,
and they're going to do the smartly and give us Zelda 2, or sorry, Breath of the Wild 2 this fall and totally fuck up our lives.
Yeah, true. And then Mario Odyssey 2.
I don't need a 2 for that. I would have loved DLC for it though. That'd have been really cool. So
they did that. What Luigi's thing?
balloon thing, but like they could have added different worlds and stuff like that, or more. They did add a lot of costumes. I will go in that. I don't know if you've plugged it in recently or anything like that.
Not in a while.
Yeah, they have so many more costumes. I don't know. I think Sony's in a good position. The only downfall is that so is Microsoft. So really now you have to look at it as who you're going to invest in first, at least for us. And I know, obviously, you and I are already going to be the investors on the ground floor with Xbox for you. Excuse me, PlayStation for me. That's just how you and I run.
Right.
We've kept in those ecosystems for years. Why would we get out of them when we're both supportive and they have the games that we want?
Why would we get out of them when we made it through the dark ages of each platform? You skipped the PS3 generation, didn't you?
No, I skipped the 360. I didn't have the 360.
That's right.
I had everything else but it.
But you made it through the PS3 dark ages.
There was only a dark ages for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And now that was the first PlayStation I did not get at launch. I'll say that because I was not spending $600 on a console.
Yeah.
But my PlayStation 3 actually still works, and it was a launch PS3. It just wasn't bought in the launch window. Yeah. But I mean, it's going to be I really think it's going to be a drag-out war when it comes to what are you offering me besides graphics, because I think this is going to be the hardest thing that either team has ever had to message to consumers.
Yeah.
I correct me if I'm wrong with this stuff. I think I say that a lot, but you and I don't care whatever game is going to look like on your specific platform.
Yep. Because
no matter what, and as much crap as you and I always give each other, all the games are going to look amazing. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what are they doing differently than the PS4 or Xbox One at this point?
Correct.
So it's like, what are you selling me? Are you selling me the fact that I can play Hellblade for basically $10 a month? I think that's what Game Pass is, right?
Yeah.
Or are you selling me that Horizon or something like that is the same thing with PS Now? I don't know how they're going to convince mom and dad to buy that console for the kid.
Sure.
I know you and I obviously are going to get those consoles. I just don't know how you convince the other ones at this moment. And I think going back to our price point, that's how at least Sony is going to combat that, is not with messaging, but with big old price points right in front.
True.
Just showing, hey, we're cheaper than the Xbox and we can do the same thing.
And I think that's why we're hearing those comments like from Microsoft saying that they're going to, for the first year, release all their games on Xbox One still, because they still want that community of people that they already have. And I'm just now thinking of this. I can't remember where I saw this, but Sony, there was a leak somewhere that said Sony was going to do something similar with PlayStation 5, that there wasn't going to be exclusive PS5 games either.
Oh, they shouldn't.
Other than like third parties like Godfall, I think that's exclusive. But
they shouldn't. I mean, they're in a much harder position than Xbox. Xbox obviously doesn't have as many adopters reportedly than PlayStation. How do you alienate an audience that became second to the PlayStation 2?
Right.
And we all know, I mean, it's no secret what the PlayStation 2 was able to succeed in. So it's, how do you totally say, hey, we have all these games. By the way, only about 5 million of you are going to get this at launch.
Yeah.
So have fun, you 5 million. The other of you guys, sorry, you're out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think Xbox has a leg up with that stuff, because they necessarily don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already set up all their sites and all that stuff to basically make it so you don't need it. And in a sense, that's what I guess second place looks a lot better for you. I'm not going to say they're in third place or last place, because I think you have to look at the Switch a lot differently for what it offers you. But still, Xbox has continued to see growth.
Yeah.
Even if we're not seeing the numbers on it. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to this almost being hopefully like one of the last like dead next gen news weeks. I can't wait till almost every week we're going to be talking about like whatever next gen thing is actually confirmed.
Yeah, like when 343 announces Halo Infinite's gameplay tomorrow morning. It's totally not happening.
Nintendo does have a direct on Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's all Animal Crossing, so I wasn't too interested in it.
Gotcha.
Unless maybe that's their Platinum Games thing.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Bayonetta 3 is coming.
But
yeah, I'm just like, I mean, I know we're in February. We've already kind of done like a next-gen prediction list and all that stuff. I'm just excited to get this stuff going. I really hope I'm wrong in the sense that Sony's conference is this coming month. just so I want to start getting a clearer picture in my head. I want to start knowing what we're going to get offered at launch, because this is always the most exciting time in video games, is when there's console launches. And especially now that we're at 2 launches from companies that couldn't be in more different spots.
Yeah.
And they're attacking it both from, I think, a very good place. Microsoft going on a offense, and Sony going on defense, but both have a lot to show us and a lot to prove to us. And I think we're only going to get the best from both of them. I don't think we're going to have a sharing video like we did in 2013 from Sony. I think it's going to be a lot more stealing of ideas. Like, shit, Xbox did a really good job with that streaming service. That's what I want. And Xbox, as we already saw how much first-party studios actually matter. That's why they've invested so much.
Thankfully, we won't have to endure... Well, I won't, as an Xbox fan, have to endure watching Jack Tretton walk out on stage to Radioactive and just cry myself to sleep because of what Don Matrick did to Xbox. God, that man's a idiot.
I do miss that E3 though. Not just because of it like demolishing Xbox or anything like that, but I that was back when like the heads, or I guess not even so the heads, the companies though went after each other. Like they were just so ingrained on converting you to their system that they wanted to not just show you what was right with their system, but what was wrong with the competitors.
True.
And that was just kind of a cool thing to see, is that you could really see the console wars of the 90s going at it again.
And now you see Phil Spencer and Shuhei Yoshida sending heart emojis
exactly
to each other.
hand in hand. Now they just and I get it. That's actually where we should be at.
Yeah.
We should be like, you and I can always joke about giving each other crap for, like, I give you crap for Halo. You might give me crap for, like, the Marios or the Samuses and that type of stuff. But, like, it should be to the point where that's just a funny, and all they're doing is like, dude, that's great. I'm glad you got the game you wanted. I can't wait to get the game that I want.
Yep. Agreed. Completely. So, thank you guys for coming out to the show. This has been episode 26. Hopefully next week has some big news stories like, Halo Infinite.
Well, we have a direct at least to go over. We can talk about all the new Animal Crossing stuff.
God,
we can cut down this tree and this other tree.
Jesus, no. I'd rather do anything but that. Remember, you can always join us every Wednesday on YouTube for the live recording of Podcast PXN. Again, appreciate you guys coming out and participating in the chat. And much love, and keep on gaming.
Deuces.